However, I am compelled to speak of the tumultuous atmosphere in which this investigation took place. Bolstered by the in vogue way to mass communicate, major investigations are greatly hampered. Undue stress is placed on investigators, and baseless allegations are made on a whim that on occasion need to be followed up on, hampering investigations and wasting valuable time and assets. City and county detectives refuse to fall victim to this armchair information, reported to be true and correct from the purveyor, and kept their eyes on the investigative ball, bringing this case to a chargeable end. Right now, I'd like to introduce District Attorney Sam Sangerbogen.
Preliminarily, I would like to thank the Chief of Police and the Mayor, along with Lieutenant Matt Stash, Detective Alex Nolan, the detectives and patrol of the Wilkes-Barre City Police Department. This is truly a unified effort in pursuit of justice. Despite some of the things that have been said in the public, I can say, and I'm happy to say, that the work that was done in this case is second to none. I would be remiss if I didn't also thank my first assistant, Tony Ross, who from the very minute that Lanaya Clark went missing, was answering the call with legal questions about how to pursue missing persons, searches, and other such questions. I have to also thank, which should go without saying, but needs to be said anyway, Amira Woods and Antoine Clark and the real family and friends of Lanaya. The fact of the matter is, many people online supported to be friends of Lanaya, but did nothing but try to harm this case and try to make themselves famous. Amira and Antoine are present. They have asked that I convey to the media that they do not wish to be contacted following the press conference. Obviously, this is at the time of grieving, and they ask that their privacy be respected. I'm confident that you all will do that. This case involves a devastating loss of life, and not just any life. I think it affects us all differently when we see the loss of a child, in this case, a young girl who thrived despite a disability. In all ways, an everyday, average, rebellious teen, living her life day by day. Adopted by parents who loved her, and betrayed by certain family members. I have to acknowledge the pain that they must feel. Our thoughts and prayers are with them, not just at the moment of loss, not just on this day of the arrest, but throughout the prosecution and into the future. We have all witnessed certain criticism of police, the mayor, the district attorney's office. As this case went on, as investigators toiled to find Lala and then pursue her killer, I was in a room of police, and immediately surrounding me were 6 detectives, all of whom had daughters that either were recently 14, are currently 14, or will soon be 14. No one in that room thought this was just some other case. In an era of instant gratification, I doubt any of the naysayers have the attention span to pay attention long enough if I were to plod through all the things done in this investigation to seek justice for Lala. As the chief mentioned, the detailed affidavit speaks for itself. It's over 30 pages long. I haven't seen an affidavit that long or even close, except in cases of a serial killer. Justice, of course, is not measured by speed, but by results. The Wilkes-Barre Police Department, under the expert tutelage of Chief Boyle, who has 25 years pursuing criminals, and Lieutenant Matt Stash, a 30-plus-year veteran of the department, they will not and should not rush at the expense of building a case that is anything less than accurate, complete, and capable of securing conviction. We are aware of an incident where a detective's emotions got the better of him. It's something that we have discussed. But don't be mistaken. In a time where not only it's popular, but almost encouraged to make yourself famous by going online and recklessly reporting falsities, those are acts that can be dangerous when they're done irresponsibly. These detectives at that point had hours and hours of work pursuing a girl they thought they would save. These are people, they're not robots. They have sons and daughters, they have feelings. And anyone that passionate about losing a girl like Lala, I want on my team. This case is certainly not over. This is the first step, but it's a big step. From the outset, the police and prosecutors worked deliberately and tirelessly, gathering evidence to move this case forward responsibly and worked across multiple states and multiple agencies. I would like to take you through a summary of facts and steps taken in this investigation that shows the monumental work done in arresting Bobby Joe Etzel today, the biological aunt of Lanaya Clark, for the murder of Lanaya. On the screen, you'll see a timeline of events. On January 13th, Lala's parents, in an effort to protect her, went to the Luzerne County Courthouse and held a PFA hearing asking for an order protecting Lanaya Clark from her biological aunt that would eventually kill her. Lanaya, not understanding its importance, was upset with that order. It was going to keep her from her biological aunt and her cousins. And make no mistake, later on that day, she was disciplined by her parents, removing her electronic devices. In all other ways, she was acting perfectly normally, no reason to be alarmed. That evening, she left home unannounced, without any issues or indication of distress. By 5 o'clock, her parents discovered that she had gone. Within 2 hours, she was reported missing to the Wilkes-Barre Police Department. The missing persons investigation involved multiple steps. That very evening, Wilkes-Barre Police entered the missing juvenile into the NCIC, the National Crime Information Center. That included a description of her, the details about her disability, a description of her hearing aids, a description of the necklace she wouldn't be caught without, and the fact that she did not currently have a device that could be used to locate her. On January 19th, her father searches the nursing home of her biological grandmother. No one had seen Lanaya. Police receive a tip at Wilkes-Barre that Lanaya may be at the Wilkes-Barre Township Inn Suites. The defendant was not a guest. Lanaya was not seen on the property. The info was determined to be inaccurate. Lanaya had never been there. On January 20th, the Plains Township Police receive a 911 call that she may be at the Extended Stay Hotel. They eventually obtained consent to live in the room, but they did not locate Clark. The investigation would reveal that Clark was indeed in the hotel that day, but actively hiding from police. Plains Township follows up with the hotel staff. They circulate a picture of Lanaya and ask them to contact police. No one ever sees Lanaya on the property. I reiterate that Lanaya was actively working to conceal herself from police and from her parents. In conjunction with that, her aunt was enabling her to conceal her identity. On January 23rd, police create a social media post seeking information and assistance from the public. Despite the widespread dissemination of that post, it results in no leads, no tips, again, because of the nature of actively hiding. The detectives also notify the patrol to be on the lookout for Lanaya and circulate the picture. By January 28th, Lanaya is still not found. Police receive a tip she's in Lehigh County, which they follow up and determine is not accurate. She's entered in the Pennsylvania Criminal Intelligence Center, circulating for information again among Pennsylvania police. Detective Dennis finally makes contact with Bobby Joe Etzel, who is the defendant in this case. She lies to police and denies having any knowledge about Clark's whereabouts and agreed to come in for a further interview. On January 30th, police chase reported sightings at the Boulevard townhomes. Detective Dennis used hours and hours of security footage. A person with the physical attributes of Lanaya is seen, but determined not to be her. Investigators even send the picture to her mother, and we confirm that it was not indeed her. Lanaya had never been present. Detective Fisher follows up and identifies a resident at that location, and also denies knowing or seeing Lanaya. On February 3rd, police proceed to the extended stay hotel in Wilkes-Barre and make contact with Bobby Jo Etzel. She had failed to appear for her scheduled interview with police. She claims that she missed it because she was ill. She attempted to refuse investigators the ability to search, and does indeed refuse them the ability to search to the extent they could see in the room. They could not see Lanaya. In an effort to get probable cause to get a search warrant to search that room, they contact the members of the staff on scene. They circulate a picture, conduct interviews. No member present at the hotel had ever seen Clark. They made repeated attempts to develop probable cause and search the hotel room, but she is never seen at that hotel by anyone else. On February 6th, police proceed to Caffrey Street and follow another tip that she had been seen with a boyfriend. They managed to search the property. No one, not Lanaya or anyone else, was located. On February 10th, Wilkes-Barre police disseminate a press release in hopes of restarting interest and getting additional leads and increasing awareness of the case. The photos are posted on media websites. On February 11th, police approach Darlene Etzel. Detectives go to the nursing home, Darlene, who is the paternal grandmother of Clark and mother of the defendant. She openly lied to police, which was later determined by the investigation, saying she had not heard from Clark since she went missing, which we now know is not true. She further suggested Lanaya Clark may be with one of her boyfriends in an effort to mislead police away from her daughter. The investigation reveals that these statements were knowingly false and intended to mislead the investigators. Also on February 11th, police act on a tip that Lanaya is seen at Shields Market. Once again, they do hours of security footage, and a juvenile is found, but that juvenile is also determined not to be Lanaya Clark. Very importantly, and sadly, police have determined that February 11th is the date that Lanaya is murdered. Days before she's murdered, the defendant believes she might go to jail because she is in violation of the PFA. I think we need to understand that these are not normal people. The response to the potential to going to jail for violating the PFA is to return a child to her parents, not to murder her. We've uncovered additional evidence by means of video and by means of witness statements that Lala was being restrained and held in a closet, kept without food, made to use a bucket for a bathroom, yelled at and mocked by her biological aunt, who approaches her from behind, pulls a plastic bag over her head until her life is extinguished. Nonetheless, no one knowing that this is occurring, the police continue their missing persons investigation, and not knowing none of their actions could save Lala. They conduct hours of surveillance at multiple locations. They speak with Lala's biological mother out of state. They search various people's phones. They interview a live-in girlfriend of Antoine in the hopes that she or her children may obtain some information that could help. They take video from the day of Clark's disappearance in an attempt to ascertain in which direction she went, and eliminated many directions by means of seeing cameras, but it never leads to her destination. On February 21st, police receive reports that a body is found behind a garage on Thayer Street. It's a garage rented by her adopted father, Antoine, which of course points in his direction. The question is whether this was an intentional act or merely a coincidence. At the scene to which the detectives, Wilkes-Barre Patrol, Luzerne County detectives, and Luzerne County lawyers, including myself, approach, we find a body left in a pile of snow. The body had no hearing aids, did not have the necklace that Lala was reported to wear, and based on the condition, not only was not immediately apparent that the body was Lanaya's, it seemed unlikely. Also found at the scene were items left behind by the murderer that belonged to the residence at 114 New Alexandria. That's information that we found out later, and once again, we have to wonder, is that designed to misdirect police or simply carelessness? And so the police begin an investigation into a death that they do not yet know is Lanaya Clark. They conduct a search warrant on the lot where the body is found, and in addition to the body, find items that are linked to the defendant. They ascertain video evidence, the likes of which cannot be adequately described in words. The Wilkes-Barre City Police work backwards from the scene of the body and uncover what has to be dozens of different cameras and trace the person that dumps the body at that location, who is dressed in a hood, a COVID-19 mask, and other clothing that is later linked to the defendant. It's a female with a larger build and a specifically unique gait that is matched to video of known film of the defendant. This person is pushing a wheeled cart that contains a heavy object. Inside the cart is a gray tote. Not coincidentally, the defendant lived on Catlin Street recently near the scene, so she is familiar with the area. The police work backwards and search a nearby laundromat. They find the gray storage tote in which Lanaya's body was placed. The markings of the tote match the markings on the video. They compare the laundry carts at the scene to the cart on the video, and they match the wheeled cart. Surveillance footage, as later is found, to find the suspect pushing the cart with the tote inside. Police then engage in a search for video that would track the suspect on the way to the Thayer Street garage from an original destination. These are images from some of the video found by police of the perpetrator that leans behind Lala's body at the Thayer Street garage. In the search for the route of the suspect we now know as defendant, on the way to the Thayer Street garage, this map depicts that route. As I said before, to uncover this route involves finding every house with a ring camera, every business with surveillance, anyone that was taking video at the time. And of course, since the route wasn't known, at every single turn we had to eliminate every single possible direction. So hundreds of hours of video were reviewed that maybe did not lead us to the defendant, but eliminated possible routes for her to have taken. After the body is left, police then begin tracing footage where the defendant and the person in the video goes from the scene of leaving the body. Without taking you through the details, once again, you can see that this route is an extensive search and involves hundreds of cameras that all of the detectives of Wilkes-Barre and the Luzerne County DA's office had to search. Very importantly, we uncovered video that takes her miles from the scene and then in a ride share back to the New Alexander Street address, which is merely blocks from where the body is dumped in an effort to mislead police from her location. Eventually, as a result of these efforts, police are able to track the criminal to the New Alexander Street address. I know many of you were present for the search at that address. Coincidentally, we received a simultaneous tip that the defendant had moved to that address from the hotel where she was staying. Police make contact with the landlord, who confirms that in fact a woman matching her description is staying at 114 New Alexander Street. However, the investigation also reveals that hours after the discovery of the body goes public, the defendant relocates, packs a U-Haul, and moves to Maryland. We conduct a search on New Alexander Street. In a dumpster adjacent to the property, we find clothing matching the suspect. That is to say, clothing matching the suspect on video is in a dumpster adjacent to the property where the defendant was living. Police sent items to the state police lab, and I would like to specifically thank the state police for their work in assisting us on this case. The defendant's DNA profile was found on the pants and coat worn in the video of the video that depicts a person leaving Lanaya's body behind on Thayer Street. I would like to also thank cybergenetics, who assisted in advanced DNA profiling, where we found multiple items linked to the crime. For example, the knife found with the body, the tote found at the laundromat, and various items of clothing. As a result of this search, Wilkes-Barre police uncover a witness who indicated that she saw the defendant kill Clark, suffocating her with a plastic bag. Defendant also admitted to leaving New Alexander Street with the body on the day in question and returning hours later. I want to emphasize that these details, despite people's best efforts, were not made public at the time, which led investigators to believe the information was true. The witness also revealed that the defendant was paranoid she would be found with Lala and go to jail. She also led us to videos of the defendant verbally abusing Clark. We tracked her movements in New Alexander on February 8th, just before the murder. On February 21st, social media revealed to the public the investigation of the body and video that depicts her packing up a U-Haul. I should note that, as you know, based on the charges currently in existence, that the defendant was found and arrested in Maryland for interfering with the custody of Lala and with her parents. You'll notice in this slide that the photograph on the right-hand side is actually the necklace that's been previously described. It's a very unique necklace. It was described to police as something that she would not be found without. And again, her body was found when identified to not have either her hearing aids or that necklace. Overall, the investigative steps, if I were to summarize, involved 17 search warrants, 14 in Pennsylvania, 2 in Maryland, 1 in West Virginia. DNA submitted to multiple institutes, dozens of interviews, including chasing down the defendant in Maryland. We conducted and reviewed hundreds of hours, if not thousands of hours, of video, digital downloads on multiple devices, and tracked the defendant through her travels before and after she dumped Renaya's body behind the garage. We chased down additional evidence that will be readily available in the affidavit later this afternoon. On April 20th, 2026, Dr. Siebert and Coroner Dion Fernandez finalized the report and death certificate declaring the cause of Lala's death as mechanical asphyxia and her manner of death as homicide. At the January 13th PFA hearing, a series of events began that led to Clark's flight and then kidnapping and homicide. Defendant's fear of incarceration, losing custody of her own children, and her video documented disdain for Lala were her motives for this homicide. Her flight to Maryland on the day the body was discovered shows her consciousness of guilt. The defendant's own interview with police and social media posts are littered with fabrications and attempts to mislead the investigators and the general public, as well as falsely implicate other people of this crime. I think it's important that we thank the people involved. I hope I haven't forgotten anyone, but so many people were willing to come forward and volunteer information, act to assist, and locate Lala in an attempt to save her life. Number one, members of the public, genuine members of the public who called in tips. I listed a number of tips that really didn't go anywhere, but that shouldn't deter anyone. If you say something, see something is a real thing. You don't know what kind of small bit of information could lead to saving someone's life. I'd like to thank Mayor George Brown and the Wilkes-Barre administration throughout this difficult investigation. Their support never wavered. The Pennsylvania State Police, their administration, as well as their labs and their forensic services, Maryland Law Enforcement, the United States Marshal Service, and the Cybergenetics Lab. Bobby Joe Etzel today is being charged with the homicide of Lanaya Clark. Is being charged as an open count of homicide, meaning that a jury will later determine the degree, but I'm comfortable saying that investigators believe that this is a first-degree murder case. The specific intent is showed by her efforts to suffocate Lanaya Clark and kill her on the day of questioning. Because of her being held in the closet and the various other actions that I mentioned, she's being charged with kidnapping, a felony of the first degree, and for her actions after the death of Lanaya, abuse of corpse, a misdemeanor of the second degree. The mayor and the Wilkes-Barre police never pressed against the integrity of this case for the sake of appearances or timeliness, knowing that our duty is to follow the facts, apply the law, and pursue justice. It's not to please the public, and it's never to fail the victim. Finally, thank you to the family, who were also very patient in a very difficult investigation. I can imagine what it's like to go through such an event, but to also be patient with police in the face of what was being said online, mostly falsities, about both them and the police. Their patience and their support is greatly appreciated. We hope that we can show our support for you in return in our pursuit of this case. Once again, please respect the wishes of the family who wish to have privacy. At the end of this press conference, I will be happy to take questions, but until then, it's my pleasure to introduce Mayor George Brown for a few comments.
Thank you, Stephen. Appreciate that. Good morning. First and foremost, I offer my sincere condolences to the family and friends of Lanaya Clark. As mayor, I stand here today to choose my board to reiterate my support for the Wilkes-Barre Police Department. I'm especially grateful to the detectives who have worked nonstop to bring justice to this case. As I expressed at the City Council meeting several weeks ago, my support for the Wilkes-Barre Police Department has not wavered throughout this entire investigation. The detectives lived daily with the horrors of this case, which is described and you will see in the affidavit after a few years. These disturbing details remain with the detectives when they return home to their families. You have to understand what you're doing. While the detectives were working diligently in this case, falsehoods were being spread about their work online. Today is proof that the desperate, literal posted, shared on social media, the detectives persevered to bring the truth surrounding this horrible tragedy to light.
I'm hoping that after my lengthy presentation, I've answered all your questions, but I have a feeling somebody might have one to the extent that I can answer it without doing harm to the investigation, or to the extent that I know the answer to it. I will take a few questions.
Sam, just housekeeping, is there going to be affidavits available for us?
They will be available later this afternoon. I believe the arraignment is going to follow this question.
And first question, is there a co-conspirator along with Bobby Joe?
So that's an important point, a good question. We have not concluded the investigation, it's ongoing. There are people that are still under investigation, but I can't comment about, anything further about new charges on anyone.
Where's the arraignment?
Magistrate Cornell.
Is it going to be in person or by email?
It is going to be in person, and I promise you'll have enough time to get there. All right, thanks, everybody.
Well, that concludes this press conference. I tried to tell people, I did 2 live action videos in front of the police station when this was going on, to let the police do their job, which they did. This was a very, very extensive investigation, a 30-page affidavit. Probably hundreds, if not thousands of hours went into this. to bring this to a conclusion. The problem is when people are on trying to spread falsehoods, it's not helping anything. Wilkes-Barre Police, the DA's office, state police, and everyone involved did a great job. And as always, it's not like on television where everything is done in 20 minutes. It doesn't happen that way. Took a long
I
time.
thought this was for the press, why is he here? Just curious, why Bob Kadluboski here if it's for the press? He slanderously puts stuff on family, just curious. So why? That's just a question.
Well, somebody's saying I slandered him.
Okay, it's
But
Lou, you need anything?
all I can tell you is this is still ongoing. She's gonna be arraigned later this afternoon at Magistrate Cronauer's office. And as always, thanks for following your live action. This press conference is over. This case went on for several months, took a lot of work, but it's just in the beginning stages. The person who's responsible is going to be prosecuted for this, and we'll see how it all turns out. And as always, thanks for following.